Harnessing Your Wealth isn't your average money podcast, hosted by Billy Peterson, a former jockey turned financial advisor. It's about more than dollars and cents. Each episode dives into the stories, struggles, and successes that define what real wealth looks like. From bold entrepreneurs to everyday dreamers who've learned that true success isn't just earned, it's lived. Because life, like wealth, it's all about how you write it.
All right, so we have Bill Brady, and I wanted to jump right in with talking to him about his company, Troomi. He's CEO of Troomi, and he has features of this company that are so important, I think, for protecting our kids in this day and age with things like app control, safe browsers, and remote text monitoring. So he helps all of us parents out there provide oversight tools. And in this world of all sorts of dangers in the cyber world, I think he has some information that we all want to hear. So Bill, thanks for being on.
Hey, thank you guys. Great to be with you.
You bet. You kind of talked about, and I read a little bit about your background, but at some point in your life, you saw a need and you saw a problem, so to speak. Can you walk us through when that happened and why you chose to do what you did?
Yeah, it happened actually on a couple levels. First, going back a couple decades, I've always been really sensitive about, media and the effect of media and technology on humanity, frankly. I know that sounds funny, but I studied it in school and wrote papers about it, and have just always been sensitive about the effect of technology on human connection, if you will. And then as a parent, I've got five incredible kids, and my wife and I have always been conscientious about, media and technology in our home. And when our second daughter was 12, I had given her, a limited feature phone, something that was on the market and designed to be safe. In 30 days after we gave it to her, it just sat on the kitchen counter and she never used it. And she kind of sheepishly said, "Yeah, this doesn't do any of the stuff that I need it to do. So why would I bother having it with me?" She began to rhyme off half a dozen things, everything from, "I need a better quality camera that takes real pictures. I'd like to have an app for graphic design. You let me listen to music on other devices. Why can't I listen to music on my phone? I have to have Google Classroom and Canvas for school." Things like that. And I sat back and went, I agree with all of that. And frankly, realized that the solution that we had given her wasn't as safe as we wanted it to be. And it certainly wasn't flexible enough to be practical to meet her needs or to help our family. And it was this vision of, hey, this needs to be done better.
So right then and there, are you entrepreneurial from the background, or what made you decide to jump in with both feet and want to pursue this to make it better for everyone?
I've been self-employed my whole career. And so my wife has been accustomed to entrepreneurship and ups and downs and good times and lean times. And she's always been supportive. And I was at a point, I was a marketing executive doing work in an agency environment for companies like Google and Netflix. And great business, but not fulfilling in any way. And for years, I'd been feeling like I need to do something more. I need to do something that matters. And so this notion of helping kids in the middle of what professionals are calling, the greatest mental health crisis of our time, and it's directly tied to devices and technology. It was just clear, not only do my kids need a solution, but all kids need a solution.
Well, this is why we reached out to you, Bill, because we've been talking for a long time, and I'm really big. I talk a lot about on this show about the health issues in the world, and most of them relate to our mental state and our emotional state. So I talk about physical health and a lot of problems that stem from the stressors in our life, and never able to detach, never able to get back into the real world, so to speak, like it was, many years before now.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to really get more information on this. And I truly appreciate your intention of this company, what you're trying to do, what you are doing.
If someone wanted to start with your service, your products, break it
Yeah.
down.
So our product is really an operating system. From a hardware perspective, we're a Samsung partner. We use Samsung hardware, and by design. Samsung is a known brand. It's a trusted brand. It's a quality brand. It's got great cameras. We can get devices at a price point that's appropriate for kids. So it gives us everything we need from a hardware perspective. Our product is really the what we call Troomi OS. It's the operating system we built that controls the device. So for kids, it just looks and feels like an Android phone on a Samsung device with a great camera. That's the kids' experience. But instead of managing all the settings on the phone, the settings are managed by the parent in what we call the Troomi Parent Portal. And there, they're setting everything from contact safe listing to manage who the child can call and text with, to content filtering, which becomes a middle layer that vets incoming and outgoing text messages so that no inappropriate images are being shared. Uh, Inappropriate language or threatening or dangerous language is blocked, and parents are notified. To a safe web browser that allows kids to use the internet without pornography, without predators, without bullies.
How do you know that that's protected? I do you have the sites that are blocked? Do you know all the sites?
Yes, we've done a couple things in that vein. In our first, what we called the Troomi Safe browser, parents predetermined the sites that were allowed. So, the first option is, do I want my child to have internet access? Half of our customers just say no, and that's great. And that's the default, frankly, is that by default, there's no internet access. If you want to turn on one of the browsers, you turn on the safe browser, and then you would list the domains that you're okay with your child using. They can't search. It's literally just a drop down, and they can go to those domains. In our new browser, we call it the Troomi Smart Browser, we're actually using AI to vet pages in real time. So a parent can say, yes, I want my child to be able to use the internet, but according to these parameters: no pornography, no gambling, no hate speech, whatever those things are, and a parent can determine those. And then a child can make a page request, and in real time, the browser is using AI to determine, does this meet the standard or not meet the standard? And if it doesn't meet the standard, the child just gets a, oh, sorry, that page is not allowed message. And if the content on the page and the website is appropriate, they'll have that page served to them.
Can parents manage these settings from their own device, or do they need to be on the child's device?
It's all on their own device, on
Okay.
the parent's own device, from any device, any platform. It's a web-based app, so it's super easy to use, super easy to access. And the other thing they're doing is managing the app experience for kids. So on our full plan, you can have access to a curated app experience where the child doesn't have, the Google Play Store on their device, so they're not scrolling through these millions of apps. And even some of the app descriptions, frankly, that kids can get to have awful, awful stuff in them.
Yeah.
So we don't make the Google Play Store available on the device, the child's device. Instead, we make the Troomi App Store available. And what the child sees is a collection of apps that's been curated by the parent. So the parent from their device and their parent portal, they say, hey, they need this app for listening to audiobooks, and this app for listening to music, and this app for school, and et cetera, et cetera. This app for their sports and their hobbies. And the parents are choosing that from a library of apps that we've assembled and rated, so the parents have an accurate view of what's in an app and things they perhaps should be aware of. And if there's something that's not in our library, something that's obscure, like I live in Laie, Hawaii, and my kids need Laie Community Bank.
Hmm.
They can still one off that from the Google Play Store and make it available to their child, but never anything that is pornographic, social media, um, the really harmful predator hangout games we don't make available. So we do that hard work for parents so they don't have to think about, you know, having that ongoing debate about social media. It's just not possible.
Right. And you talk about having access to all of their text messages and the information that's coming and going. So does that require a parent to now become a compliance officer monitoring their kids' phone usage all the time?
It really comes down to what your preference is as a parent. It gives parents visibility when they want it. Um, and, depending on the age and the maturity of your child, that can be more frequent or less frequent. And frankly, that's a kid by kid decision.
I see.
As a parent, you probably have kids that have one maturity level and other kids that have a different maturity level, and you handle them differently. So in the case of remote text monitoring, you can see every text conversation in context. And the beauty of it is that you can stay on top of things without going in and reading text messages every day because you can be alerted if there's something concerning. And otherwise you're not worried about it.
Yeah.
But if there's an inappropriate picture that comes in or goes out or is attempted to come in or go out, it would actually be blocked, but you would still be notified that someone tried to send your kid a pornographic image. Or if there's people using the F word or whatever those things are, based on the age of your child, you can set the sensitivity of those alerts and notifications and what is blocked or blurred for your child.
So it does come in the form of alerts, however you set it up. So you can say, I don't want to be alerted. I just want to monitor them on my own time if I
Yep.
choose. At what point do parents get maybe a little concerned that they're being too invasive or going into their child's private life and it may become unhealthy from that standpoint? Do you ever have that pushback?
Certainly not with our audience. Like so the parents who are interested in kid safe solutions, they've made a conscious decision. We're not gonna just give our kids an iPhone and say, good luck,
Hmm.
have fun. They're saying, hey, we know we have to do this differently. And they realize, hey, parenting is parenting. And we've made it easy for them with the technology that does half the work for them. And kids get to an age where you're like, you know what? You've learned, you've had training opportunities, you understand what's appropriate, what's inappropriate. And I can through the settings inside the parent portal, I can reduce the restrictions.
Right.
Still no pornography ever and no social media ever. Those are just hard lines we draw. But there are the child can grow into more responsibility and more independence as you have opened up the settings.
Really cool. You're, like everybody else, integrating AI into your company, right? Which we think is so important and sometimes a little bit scary with what AI does, but it's a powerful tool. It's helped you launch Troodi, right? Tell me a little bit more about Troodi and what that is and share that with our listeners if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Really exciting. So our whole mission is not just about safety. We absolutely believe that safety, when it comes to kids and tech, goes hand in hand with emotional wellness. And if you've read a book like The Anxious Generation, which I recommend all parents should read, The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt goes into great detail about the fallout we're seeing in youth mental health because of excessive screen time, a digital first lifestyle, and specifically social media, skyrocketing levels of stress, anxiety, depression, loneliness, isolation. And so we wanted to say, hey, Troomi's about yes, it's safety, but it's more than that. It's about looking at the whole wellness of the child, their confidence, their happiness, their preparation for the future, preserving their potential. And so certainly, the if you think of a prevention perspective first, it's safety. It's keeping them away from those things that we know are going to have negative outcomes. But it's also the purpose of Troodi is to provide parents with an early warning system. So Troodi is an emotional wellness chatbot that's extremely safe, extremely guardrailed. It's not going to get into inappropriate conversations. It's not going to just be an echo chamber for a kid's thoughts. It starts conversations with a very positive perspective, and it's a place where kids can ask questions in a safe way. Parents can have visibility to the whole thing. So it's not like my child's talking to some AI behind my back. Not at all. And on the flip side of that, from those conversations that a child has with Troodi, parents can get insight into how their kids are doing. Mm-hmm. And if I can share a real life example of that. Last year, we had a very tragic experience in our family where on the first day of school, my daughter had spent some really great time with a new friend who was helping her and encouraging her in an audition she was doing. And he went home from that and took his life. And my 15-year-old daughter immediately talked to us about it. We have that kind of relationship, and she immediately was, shared everything that she was feeling, the confusion, the agony, the remorse, the guilt that she was one of the last people he talked to, and she had no idea what he was going through. And so we knew, my wife and I knew, hey, we're going to make a concerted effort to talk to her every day, and make sure that she's doing okay and working through these feelings. And after a month or so, it became something we talked about less and less and less. And eventually it was just out of sight, out of mind. A month or so went by. We saw that our daughter was still dealing with the questions and the regret and the confusion. And it was enough for us to recognize, hey, maybe it's time to look at getting some professional help.
Yeah.
And have her talk to someone to work through some bereavement counseling, if you will. And in no way did that experience with Troodi diminish the relationship we have with our daughter. It strengthened us. It gave us another touch point from which we could take our already positive relationship and have some more insights and make it even better and make sure that she was getting the help she needed. That was a tragic example, but it's a perfect case study, if you will, of the value that Troodi provides.
It seems like it's almost like a talking journal where kids can open up their book and write down their feelings, but it's going to actually provide them more than just a one-sided conversation. So it's really interesting. Neat. I mean, on one hand, I can see where parents might get concerned that this information is now saved somewhere and somebody's going to be able to access it. And so how do you safeguard that?
That's a fantastic question. I'm glad you brought it up. So obviously, especially dealing with kids, data privacy is of the utmost concern. And so when we store data of any kind in our system, it's different servers. account information on one side and the text messages, for example, on another server. So even if someone were to get access to a server, there's no personally identifiable information on any sensitive, text messages, for example. They're stored completely separately by design, to make sure that there's never a breach of privacy like that.
Does this Trudy remember the conversations though and can pick up where they left off, or is it each day kind of a new day?
It's got some limited memory, not extremely long,
Okay.
but yeah, some limited memory.
Okay. You know, I know some of the things that are concerning to me as a parent, and I have also five children and basically one left in the home with us, and she's 14, and she's right there at that age where they all want their phones, they all have their friends, they all want their apps and to be able to get their social media. And so as a parent, you start feeling almost like you're drawn into the mold. You have to fit with society, and everyone's doing it. So you're just kind of, oh yeah, we'll let this go. And it's like the parents who don't allow it somehow get cast as these guys are so strict and they're so horrible. They're not letting their child, learn and develop. And although I think if you really looked at it, we'd all prefer to be that way.
Yeah.
We'd all prefer to not have our children growing up with these kind of outside influences. And I always tell my kids, I didn't even know what a phone. We didn't have phones when I was a kid.
No.
There was no such
No.
thing. There was a pay phone. You go put a quarter in it, and you hope somebody picks up. And for me, it was always collect calls. Dad, will you please come and get me?
That's what I was just gonna say. I remember doing
Help.
that. Dad, I'm at Larry's Spring Chicken Inn. Come get me now.
Will you accept the charges for Billy? No. But I'm saying is, how do you recommend to the parents to take ownership and not just go with the flow, since it's societal norm now? Everybody has to have a phone.
Yeah, yes, but the paradigms are also changing. I think of the reaction that I got years ago when I got into this space and I described what I was doing, and people would look at me and go, "You're doing what? Why?" And fast forward to today, and now the reaction that I get is, "Oh my goodness, thank you so much. Where were you 3 years ago? Where were you 5 years ago?" And opinions are really changing, and more parents are saying, "Hey, we are going to do this differently." And the more parents who do that, creates this power of collective action. The more who do it, the easier it becomes for others. Mm-hmm. And the more normal it becomes for kids. I was in an environment with a youth group recently, and in a group of 15 boys, over a third of them were using alternative devices. 4 of them were using my product. And
Nice.
and that those proportions just keep growing as more and more parents are saying, "Let's do this differently." The truth is that kids recognize, and this is research from Common Sense Media, shows that kids recognize that social media, for example, is damaging to their mental wellness. 73% of kids say that.
Yeah.
And they feel trapped because that perception that everyone else is doing it. But I've received feedback from kids. A letter, for example, from a girl in New York City who wrote me a handwritten letter to describe that she'd gotten into trouble with her iPhone and her mom took it away. For 2 months, she didn't have a device. And after 2 months, her mom said, "Hey, it's time for a second chance. Here's a Troomi phone. We're going to do it this way this time."
Yeah.
And the girl said in her letter, "When I realized it didn't have social media, I thought I was going to die," she said. But she ended with this. She said, "I'm writing to tell you thank you, thank you, thank you. I didn't know I could be this happy."
That's powerful.
That's why we do what we do.
Mhm.
And more people are catching that vision.
Wow.
Yeah. Sometimes we get short-sighted. We don't see it, do we? But it is super critical for us to take time to detach from our phones.
Bill, as I mentioned, I've got 8-year-olds at home, twins, and they ask me sometimes, when do I get a phone? And I've never really thought about this until I heard we were having you on the show, but like, what questions should I be asking myself about like a phone that I might consider for my children or services, or like what should parents just be asking? What should they want to know?
Yeah. So the first questions are questions to ask yourself. And that is, in looking at this decision of when is it time to
Mhm.
get my child their first phone. Number one, what are the specific needs that we're looking to meet? If some kids have a legitimate practical need earlier than others because of sports schedules or groups
Right.
they're involved in, or maybe mom and dad don't live together
Right.
and they need a communication way back and forth. So what are the specific needs? Number two is, what is my child's maturity level? Can they are they ready to start learning the discipline necessary to use a phone in a responsible way? And are they ready to go in a step-by-step learning process? I always say start, kids with just basic talk and text. That's it.
Mhm.
And then introduce, group text and introduce picture messaging, and then just, step by step introduce all the different things. And then, the third question there, again, it comes back to intentionality, is as a parent, am I ready to be involved in the process at whatever level is right for our family and right for my child? Am I ready to be involved in the process and help them have a learning experience as opposed to just saying, hey, here you go, good luck?
Yeah.
I think parents have got to be involved. And again, it's different for every kid, but you have to teach kids how to use any device responsibly. And then for the provider, it's the question of how are you going to empower me as a parent with functionality and visibility so that I can keep my kids safe, so I can keep them safe and healthy? What are you doing to help me do that? And then certainly that's where you can start looking at the specifics of what a device or a platform provides.
Sometimes it's the parents who need to be saved from themselves. I I mean,
I'm
honestly,
gonna get one of these for
John, you
myself
need
because
one
I
because we need to protect you from you.
well, I just the social media. Like
Yeah.
I can't even I told my wife last night we were sitting on the couch and should we put on a show? Yeah, let's put on a show. 5 minutes into the show, what are we both doing?
You're on your phones.
You're scrolling social media, you're not even paying attention. It's like I feel like I haven't watched a movie
It's a
for like
habit.
10 years. It's a terrible habit. And I know it's bad for me, but you
I
guys,
I read this. Somebody did a study, and this was a great quote. She said, "The biggest predictors of a child's screen use are their parents' screen use." It's a
yeah,
really simple statement, but it's true because if they model our own behaviors, and if we're as guilty as anyone, more than anyone, and you see those couples, and I'm probably guilty of this too, but I see it more and more. You go out to a restaurant and you could see two couples sitting there, not even talking to one another, all four of them on their phones, just looking at their phones. And what in the heck has gone on in our society that we
Yeah,
can't even communicate in
yeah.
person?
yeah,
Well, and think of that scenario, and we've all done this as parents, where you're doing something on your device, and it might be something that's urgent for work, but whatever it is, or it might just be scrolling social media,
Yeah.
but you're on your device, and a child comes, and they're really excited, mom, dad, and they want to talk to you about something or show you something, share something, and what do we do? One sec.
Hold on. Yeah.
hold on.
One sec. Mom, dad, 1 second. And then when we finally look up, they're
The
gone.
time is over.
Yeah.
Right.
Or you
And
give them that. I've done this. Oh, yeah, that's cool, honey. And then you're back.
yeah, and we've
That's bad.
inadvertently taught them that the device is more important than they
Than
are.
they are. Yeah.
That's tragic, guys.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
super
it's
important
sad.
part of this conversation. I was reading also from a different source called edsource.org, and this was a study on the harms of cell phone use for children. And they talk about the negatives, the outcomes for children who are constantly on their phones. Shorter attention span, they're more anxious, they have trouble thinking critically, they are less physically fit,
Yeah.
they have problems interacting socially, and they cannot do anything without communicating with their phone. They cannot make a decision. So it is truly eye-opening when you stop and think about it. And the problem I find is that we are so normalized to it that we don't even see it as a problem anymore, like most people, until they stop and say, hey, you know that disgusting feeling we all get after you've scrolled through social media for several minutes, or sometimes for people several hours, and like, what did I just do? What am I doing with my life? It's an addictive habit, and it provides that chemical rush that everyone craves, but it is really destructive.
Yeah.
So what do you say to parents in order to get them to start examining their own habits, Bill?
We really try to be a catalyst for helping, parents create at a family level, a healthy relationship with technology. One of the things we recommend, for example, is that you have family norms that apply to everyone, not just the kids. But there are places and times that are no phone zones. For example, do not have phones at the dinner table. Period. The benefits of family dinner are so huge, and they're lost if you're just on your phones. So like make that one. Don't do phones at the dinner table. Yeah, in our family, we don't do media when we're outdoors. It's if we're on a hike, we're on a hike. And yeah, you might be taking pictures. That's fine. But you're not like doing other stuff.
Yeah.
We're
Engaging, yeah.
outdoors and we're being active and we're enjoying nature. Um, don't do phones in bedrooms. Don't we like to say we have a central place in our house. It's in an area between our kitchen and our living room, and there's a box that all the phones go into at night to charge. And that's what we say. This is where our phones go to sleep. And you know, the more that parents can lead out on that, the better. So that it is creating a culture, not a rule. And that's really effective.
How do you help transition the people who have, okay, the iPhone's the most popular phone by far in our country, who now are thinking, okay, now I want to do this for my kids, so I'm going to buy Samsung phones. Are there any problems with that? And can you incorporate different hardware companies under the same cell phone contract?
No, so fantastic question, but the things that we do to create the Troomi environment are only possible on Android. And to create the environment that we do, the level of safety, uh, when you buy a Troomi phone, it ships with the operating system on it. It's not software, it's not an app. It's done at a level that, as the CEO of the company, I couldn't remove it from my own kids' phones,
Okay.
literally.
And how about your
And
phone? Is there your phone also have to be an Android in order to operate it?
nope, I use an iPhone and
Okay.
just talk to my Troomi kids just like I would with anyone else using an Android. So that's just a normal texting experience like you'd have between an iPhone and an Android.
Bill,
Uh,
you mentioned something that piqued my interest. So if if they want to use your service, TrueMe, they need to buy the phone directly from you, or could you put this on an already existing Android device?
no, you buy it from us,
Okay.
and we make that really easy. The phones are inexpensive, and we frequently got some great promotions going.
Okay.
It's really important to us that, price not be a barrier, for any family. So even at regular price, the phone's only $200. We're
Oh,
not
yeah.
talking about an $800, Android or a $1,200 iPhone. Uh, but at $200, it still has a 50 megapixel camera. Like
Nice.
they're good phones. And and then you pay the monthly service on top of that. So the monthly service fee covers the safe operating system and your talk, text, and data. So that all just comes to Troomi in one convenient payment, and you get the connectivity in a safe way.
That's
Great.
really cool.
Let's look out the next 3 to 5 years. What does it look like? What does that next 3 to 5 years look like for Trumi and yourself?
I think it's impossible the way the speed with which technology is changing. That's really hard to say from a technical perspective what it will look like. Philosophically, I am absolutely sure that the pendulum is swinging the opposite way from the direction it's been. Whereas we spent the last 15 years in this great experiment with give kids all the technology and all the social media. And we've realized through a very sad, disappointing experiment that that was not the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And the youth mental health crisis is evidence of that. If you look at the statistics about when youth anxiety and depression began to spike, it's around 2010. Just, 2, 3 years after the iPhone came out and after all the kids started being on social media for 5 hours a day. It's a direct correlation.
Mm-hmm.
And now the awareness is such that over the next 3 to 5 years, we're absolutely swinging the other way. And I think getting to the same moment we had with big tobacco, where we say as a society, what are we doing? Like, we're killing ourselves. Let's stop. And, when I was a kid, it wasn't abnormal to see, a couple parents in the front seat of a car smoking with babies in the back seat. And you didn't think a whole lot about it.
Or maybe on their
Today you would
lap.
see that and go, what are they doing?
Yeah.
And I think we'll be to a point where, socially we'll say, what do you mean you're giving your 9-year-old Instagram?
Mm-hmm.
What are you thinking? Look, I think we're headed that direction, which is
Yeah.
exactly what we need to be doing.
What do you think? I mean, maybe you monitor this from some high level, but are there any social media platforms that are more dangerous, the most dangerous that you see, the biggest ones they need to be eliminated? Or are they all terrible?
They're all dangerous from the perspective, and certainly, predators have places that they choose to hang out, and there's that aspect of it. But even take out, if you were to remove predators, which a lot of that starts on social media, and if you were to remove pornography, and a lot of that starts on social media, even if you were to remove those things, social media is damaging because of the algorithms that just addict you and draw you into this constant comparison culture where, for a young person, it's so easy to get from I'm interested in what my friends are doing to I don't have enough, I'm not beautiful enough, I'm not wealthy enough, I'm not smart enough, I don't go on the right vacations, I don't drive the right car. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just this thief of gratitude for what we do have.
Mm-hmm.
And people will say to me, when's the right age to give my kids social media? And in tongue in cheek, I say, well, it depends. how soon do you want your boys to be addicted to pornography? And how soon do you want your girls to feel badly about themselves?
Huh.
That's the right age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's just a hard line that we need to draw. And you see that happening, like in the state where I live in Utah, the governor and the legislature are taking steps to try and keep younger kids out of those platforms. In Australia now, national law, if you're not 16, you can't use social media.
Wow.
And more and more countries are saying, hey, we've got to do something to stem the tide.
Yeah. So basically, they're all bad. Okay. They're all bad, Sean. So TikTok,
Bill,
okay,
I've got to pull
Instagram,
you off your phone all the
Facebook.
time. So
I'm trying to work. No, I always
yeah,
use
right.
that excuse. I'm trying to
I
work.
think that's just the same, emails, whatever. It's all
Yeah, it's
screen.
all part of the same deal. And we all have our computer powered up in our hand 24/7, and it's really distracting. And so oftentimes I crave that back to the days without it, And somebody said the other day, we were at a conference and they said, we challenged ourselves as a family. We're going to go camping. And I think they said they went for the weekend and they didn't take their phones. And it was like, what? We forgot our phones. We don't have our phones. And how are we going to survive? And it was the greatest, most relaxing
Yes.
vacation they've ever taken.
I heard a young woman speak recently who was sharing her experience about going on a youth humanitarian trip. And she was gone for 2 weeks and chose not to take her phone.
Hmm.
And she came back and just couldn't say enough about what that did for her and her happiness and her calm and her peace and just her feelings about life just so much more positive
Yeah.
after a 2 week detox.
Yeah.
And she just said, "Hey, we got to do this. We got to spend less time on our devices."
I
Love it.
couldn't agree. Once again, folks, thanks for tuning in today. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Harnessing Your Wealth with Bill Brady, talking about the importance of taking a little bit more control of your kids' activities online on their phones and how important it is to get back to being who we really were intended to be and experience the world in real time. Thanks again, Bill.
Thank you for listening. For more information about today's show, please check out the show notes. Visit our website at www.petersonws.com or give us a call at 801-475-4002. Peterson Wealth Services is a registered investment advisor. This is a paid-for advertisement. Information presented on this program is believed to be factual and up-to-date, but we do not guarantee its accuracy, and it should not be regarded as a complete analysis of the subjects discussed. Discussions and answers to questions do not involve the rendering of a personalized investment advice, but are limited to the dissemination of general information. A professional advisor should be consulted before implementing any of the options presented. Peterson Wealth Services.